All right, good morning, everyone. Welcome to our second episode of the Spiritual Sisterhood. Today, I have with me my very close friends, Parmita and Malvika, who are founders of Prana Kitchen and also fellow yoga teachers. I've had the opportunity of actually learning and growing with them when we all three did the diploma at the Kelradham Yoga Institute. So that's one. But also, we went to the same school and we have the same foundation in yoga philosophy and understanding. So I think we really do form that sisterhood that we're speaking about in this series. And I thought it would be great to have them on board to just discuss what has made them who they are and how they see the future shaping up with the spiritual sisterhood. So let's hear it from Parmita and Malvika. Thank you guys for being here. It's such a pleasure to have you.
Thank
And
you, Anvita, for having us here.
And we're just going to jump into our first question, which is based on sort of the title of the series itself. And, you can answer in whatever order you prefer. So, what does the word spiritual mean to you? Like when someone says the word spiritual, because I think everyone has a different understanding of it. So, how do you perceive it and what does it mean to you?
Yeah, so I think spirituality is often misunderstood as something that we'll do at a later stage in our life. Like we always think that okay, right now I need to hustle, I need to work, I need to build a family, and then at some point in my life I will take out time for spirituality or meditation or working towards my higher good. And I think that is that misconception because I feel spirituality is something that helps you do what you do better. So to just keep it simple, I think spirituality is anything one that connects you to your inner voice, your inner self, your inner guide, your inner child, whatever, that internal guru, that internal light that that constantly is guiding you, molding you. And once you've sort of had that or savored that connection with your divine spark, or as in yoga philosophy we call it atman, then you go out there and you sort of change that narrative from I, me, my to a more wholesome narrative of us or we or are. And it's that feeling of interconnectedness that naturally rises through this internal connection. So once you've established that internal connection, it's a natural phenomenon. It naturally will occur that you will feel interconnected to everything around you. And I feel for me, veganism is a spiritual practice in that sense because it is that I'm taking into consideration the feeling of other sentient beings over my sense of taste. So that in itself is that feeling of changing from the narrative from I, me, my
Yeah.
to our, we, and us.
Yeah, that's so powerful. Yeah, go ahead,
Yeah.
Malvika. I
Sorry, I
saw
wanted
she
to
raised.
jump in.
Yeah.
So, while Paru was talking, I realized one of the things about spirituality that really stuck with me is something that we learned in school, like spirituality or your inner self that she was talking about is that special X factor that we have within us. And I think it was that that made me realize that at a young age that we aren't just our body, we aren't just our minds, because at that age as well as later on in life, everybody is so caught up in how do I look, my thoughts are this way, my thoughts are that way, but we forget that there is something divine within us that is so much more than all these thoughts that we think and the body that we think that we are. So, spirituality would be that special thing that makes you believe that whatever is external is not who you are internally.
Yeah, wow. Oh my God. I think these first two answers themselves like pretty much encapsulate everything we think about spirituality. And I loved how, Parmita, you mentioned connectedness and empathy because I think that's something that's can be so lacking in today's day and age where everything is about competition or getting ahead in life and sort of almost like survival of the fittest. And I think yoga and spirituality reminds us that, hey, we have to take other people into account. We are not just here to live for ourselves. So that was really powerful. And I think, Malvika, the way you mentioned that we all have that divine spark within us, but it so often gets covered with thoughts, emotions. And, Miss Sanjana, who is, by the way, our yoga teacher, used to have this line in her book which said that we have this blaring like radio in our minds, and that kind of prevents us from hearing the lullaby of the soul. And that's so like similar to what you said. And I think once you hear that lullaby, you're like, thanks. This is it. I'm not going to go back from this.
Yeah.
So that's great. I think people who are listening would have taken a lot away from that first answer. So thank you guys. Good job on the first answer. I wanted to now move to the second, part of the word spiritual sisterhood and what you understand by sisterhood. And I know both of you are best friends. And how did that sort of sisterhood come about? How did you strengthen it? And what does this word mean to you?
So, again, I feel a woman has many phases, just like the moon, of full illumination and then darkness and all stages in between. And in those periods of life, it's always nice to have a shoulder to lean on or a constant cheerleader, a reminder to be gentle with ourselves, maybe speak to ourselves like someone we really love. And I think that's what our soul sisters do best. In fact, while writing or mentioning all of that in my head, I was like, what did Malvika do for me over the last few years? Because that's essentially what sisterhood is. And it doesn't matter, like the number doesn't matter, even if you have that one shoulder to lean on, and it's a solid foundation. I think that's enough, because now too, even though we don't share, Malu and I don't share the same profession, due to the sisterhood that we share, irrespective of which city she's in or what job she does, I know we'll always have this soul contract. But I have to pay like our gratitude to maybe divine, because we were in the same school. And I love how the first question already brought about Miss Sanjana, school. I think that's exactly a reflection of our sisterhood and just going to an all-girls school maybe. And we had yoga camps together, and we actually reunited after 12th when we keep joking how the universe actually threw us in similar situations. So it's like we were going through similar experiences, but in parallel timelines. And like, it's nice to she's been there with me through all my life-changing experiences. And the funny thing is, not only has she been there, but she's actually gone through the similar experience at the same time. And I don't think that's a coincidence,
Right.
So the first time we went for Vipassana, or when we decided to go diving or farming for a month to Pondicherry again, and doing our yoga diploma from, of course, your home, Kevin, and spending a month together in Mysore practicing Ashtanga yoga without driving each other mad. Sound healing course. I think the list goes on. What I'm getting back at is that, just having that person to lean on, we also decided to take that leap of faith, get out of a corporate profession at the same time. And I think it's only possible if I had her shoulder. I probably would have been a lot more resistant to take that leap of faith, especially in a city like ours. It's difficult,
and especially at such a young age to make a decision like that. If you don't have a sister or somebody to lean on that's doing it with you, it's almost close to impossible. Because it's like the way society is programmed, right? Like earn, achieve, do, make something of yourself. And here we are, like yoga students who have gone to Pondi at the age of 17, done farming for a month and come back, and we're like, what is the purpose of working so hard if we don't get that downtime to ourselves, if we don't get to connect with ourselves or our spirituality? What is the point of working in a 9 to 7 corporate job? So it really gives you strength. It really gives you faith in your own self about the things that you can do. Because it's like we said earlier, there's that deafening noise in your voice that is always a bit negative or not always in the best light. But this way you have that constant voice of support that's like helping you rewire those thoughts that like, she doesn't look at me like that. My friends don't look at me like that. Why am I looking at myself like that?
I think that's so, again, you touched on such great points, both of you there, because I think even for me, there were moments in my life where I needed my best friend to say something and point it out, and really then I could hold that mirror to myself and be like, oh yeah, like she's so right, she kind of knows me so well that I need her to say that. And I loved how you both said that you had almost the same timeline and the universe kept bringing you guys together. And I think, we believe that there are no coincidences, because genuinely things happen for a reason. And the fact that kept happening to you guys, obviously there was the soul contract building. So
absolutely, it's uncanny, Anvita. If I were to mention like the amount of, now we don't even, initially we would get goosebumps. I was like, what? How is this possible happening? Like, we've put our jobs together, we're experiencing breakup at the same time. We're like, and it's like the universe is definitely conspiring in our favor, because it's like, here you go, I'm going to give you some shit, but I'm also going to give you some support, And I think that's the sisterhood, because you always learn to look at the glass as half cup full rather than half cup empty, and
Yeah,
just do it best. Yeah.
And it's
exactly.
funny how you just end up attracting more. So it started with just Paro and I sitting and being each other's therapists in Prism and like, this is our problem, this is my problem, like, oh my
Yeah.
God, everything.
Yeah.
And it's suddenly now it's expanded. Like, I know it's going to come up later, but we have such a large sisterhood now of
Yeah.
people who come together with us every 2 weeks just to sow that same foundation in themselves, just to hear that other voice outside of themselves, to sit with themselves and reflect. And it's great because, of course, a lot of the people who do show up for our moon circles are women, but it is like a large therapy session for all of us together to
It
evolve.
is. I can vouch for that. Like, I think I've been like a regular, I would say, since July. And, okay, so I'm going to tie these two topics in. So for me, that was the one session I attended in July was so eye opening because I was like, I'm leaving my corporate job. This is like,
I
you know,
remember you left it right after.
and I was like, I think it was 2 days later that I was like submitting my resignation. And I was like, this is enough. Like, I'm leaving this. And it was thanks to the Moon Circle, and thanks to the space that you guys have created that we felt vulnerable and comfortable enough to explore those sides, which to other people were so like, if someone says leave your first job, it's always like, no, I've like worked really hard to get here. I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
So I think you guys created a space where you could think of that and you could be like, oh, you know what, maybe this is what I need. So I love that this leaving the corporate job and like, just getting in touch with yourself happens in Moon Circle. So more about that when we come to that question, but definitely like if people are watching, you should come for the Moon Circle because it's such an eye-opening experience. So yeah, definitely. And I think before we move into like the next question, just taking off from what we discussed here, do you think it takes a certain amount of, say, courage to actually want to leave a corporate job that may not be serving you? There are a lot of corporate jobs that do serve you and you're able to make time for yourself. But do you think if you're unhappy that it takes a certain amount of courage to step out? And if it does, why do you think people don't take that leap of faith? What are your thoughts around this?
I think, of course, it definitely does take courage because of the way that our society puts so much emphasis on you need to earn this much, you need to be in a corporate job. Whatever you're trying outside of the corporate world, it may not work. Why are you even going there? Will you be successful? So, of course, it takes a lot of courage. And I feel like what stops people is the fear that if I do quit this, then what will I do? What if I don't succeed at whatever else I plan to do? So I think fear is the huge thing that pushes people to stay unhappy and to stay in corporate jobs that may not be serving them. Of course, if the jobs are serving them, they may see 100 benefits to stay in there and convince themselves that this is right. I guess also because we've had an exposure at such an early age to this whole idea of spirituality, that gave us a lot of strength to actually say to ourselves and to our parents and to friends and well-wishers and whoever else that no, there is something more. We felt it and we want to pursue that in whichever way we can. And it's weird because whenever you make that decision or that choice, the universe just conspires to help you. It'll send you work, it'll send you a partner, it'll send you anything. You may lose things that you gained along the way, but there'll always be a way that the universe will come back and say, I've got your back. You're doing what you love, I've got you.
Yeah,
Definitely.
that's so.
Just to add on to that, I think apart from courage, I think what it requires is just authentic self-expression. And I think first you need to build a relation with yourself for anything, not just deciding to quit your job, just being true to yourself, because I don't think a lot of us are true to that. And that ties up with the first thing about what is spirituality. It's just a connection with yourself. Just honor what you're feeling. We don't honor what we feel. We narrate what other people think that we feel, it's what is in our heads. It's like, I'm going through an experience and someone told me this must be so shitty. Oh, it must be shitty. I'm just relaying things that people are saying, but how often am I actually, or I'm sticking up in a job because someone's telling me it's bringing me financial security and bringing me, purpose, and it's bringing me, but is it really? And to check in within frequently. And I think that's again what our moon circles do. But I think that's essentially what you want to do first, more than the courage will come. The minute you're being honoring that light within, you're being true to yourself, the courage will come, the fears will disappear. It's just you need to be true to yourself. You need to prioritize that authentic self-expression on a daily basis. I don't know how much to stress upon this because some people say, I'm doing it once a week, I'm reflecting, and I'm like, no, you need to live a life according to your value system, not someone else's. And I think that's when you are the most successful, if I can say so.
Yeah, I think that's so true. Especially like you said, you'll have a lot of students, like yoga students who come to you. Oh, I'm practicing like only on Sundays because that's when I get time. And then we have to explain that no, but even if you do the asanas only one day, take some time out to like sit with yourself. And I think once people start to see that, I think it, as you said, that authentic self-expression comes up, and then they start having the courage to kind of deal with that. And I think, Malvika, like you said, we were so privileged. I think that we got that early access to spiritual knowledge. And I think along with spiritual knowledge, we got a very dreamy, like, I don't know, in JB, there was always this, if you believe in it, you can do it. Like there was no, there was never a thought of, I don't know, we were never taught to be mediocre or to like survive on the bare minimum. And I think that as a child, having that understanding kind of just shifts your mindset. You always live in this possibility of what if I can, I can do it. So definitely, I think we had a great lot to say for JB that's brought us here today.
Yeah.
So yeah. But
It was a great foundation.
Yeah, absolutely. And taking from that, I think our next question is about sort of, how your childhoods have shaped where you guys are now and how they've made you who you are. So let's jump into just understanding, a couple of years ago, who was Parmita, who was Malvika, and who are they now? So let's go with that.
Okay, so when you say couple of, I feel like it's a lifetime ago. Because honestly, I think it's been over a decade that I've been like following this lifestyle. And I think just being born to, I'm going to just speak about this shift for the last 10 years, and just being brought up and being born to a family that is not necessarily spiritual, very religious, if I may say so.
Yeah.
And but also given me the freedom to kind of explore my deeper calling, my purpose, and blessed to have parents who kind of give me that freedom for self-expression. I never feel judged in their company, and I think that's important when you are in your formative years, sort of naive, kind of forming that idea of the world, of what you want, of whatever your shared beliefs are. And they've always been my embodiment of home, of love. A lot of who I am today is a result of what I've seen them do. It may not necessarily be the same thing or the same ritual or the same practice. I may not be saying Sanskrit shlokas. I don't wake up at that same time. But in essence, whatever I do, whether that's rise and say things that I'm grateful about, or whether that is sing or chant or blast Krishna Das music, they've never judged me. They've been like, okay, let her do her, whether that's do my office or my space or burn some sage, camphor, palo santo. I think these are all things you kind of pick up from your environment and from your Sangha necessarily, even if it's not the family that you're born to, even whoever you are in close association with or in connection with while you're being brought up, they really leave a lasting impression on your mind. And I think what's something that I would say has helped me be more me is this idea of success, especially because we come from a city that is so corporate and that is so time is money. And I just feel so blessed. I, in fact, say this in my gratitude, I think multiple times in the week, but so blessed that my parents don't gauge that from me from that sense of financial success. We always encourage each other, to pursue something that's wellness related with regards to our mind, our body, our spirits. Do something with that, whether that may make sense to us or not. We still encourage the other one to do that. So whether that is food control like mitahar, something that we do in yoga, or sunbathing, or just open communication. So I think those are certain things that in my upbringing has definitely shaped me. Apart from that, of course, experiences, because there's no better teacher than experience. And I think having lost my brother, going through a breakup, trying to stay truthful to my inner voice and to what sets my soul on fire, regardless of how things are around me or what tough choices I have to make in order to keep being like true to that voice. I think my parents play a pivotal role in that, because they both showed me different aspects of spirituality when it comes to like my dad taking me to like Rishikesh or Bali for the Spirit Festival, or Vipassana was actually introduced by him to me. And then, even my mom with like art of living or sound healing or believe in angels or cook solar cooked foods. I think what's important is that, to have people in your life who strongly believe or have that shared value system, and then they radiate that out there so that you keep doing you, and no judgment, so I think that definitely is something that I owe my formative years too.
Wow, that's so beautiful. Okay, I'm going to chime in after Malvika finishes and then share my thoughts. But yeah,
Yeah, so
yeah.
like Paro said, the first obviously teacher for me as well was family and the support that they gave me to explore things that for them it was not natural. Like to have a daughter, I mean, they're both lawyers, they both study, they're both in the corporate world constantly every day. And then to have this daughter who's like, I want to teach yoga and I don't want to do law anymore. So for them, it was a huge challenge, but it was great support at the same time. It gave me the opposite opinion that I needed. It was sort of like the devil in my head at a point that, made me question myself that is this sustainable in a long time? Am I doing what I love? How much faith do I have in myself? And that really did strengthen over time because it just kept me in connection with who I am. And of course, I would give a lot of this credit to JB. I don't think I would be who I am today without my school, without my yoga teachers who I still contact, if there's something going on in my life and I'm confused about something. It's just great that we had such good role models who exposed us to such a different reality. Like they would take us to Pondicherry every year and show us people just living, running a vegan cafe, living on a farm. That idea in Bombay would have been so foreign that there's a place like this where people are actually pursuing their love and their passion and they're very happy. And it may not be extravagant Bombay life, but there is an alternative to what we are seeing every day, and seeing that at a young age. And of course, more than teachers, also all the friendships like Paro, you, everybody, it was like a sort of collective consciousness that we had built in our school, which just helped each of us believe in ourselves and pursue things that JB girls have done, things that nobody has like thought of before. It's just incredible.
Oh, JB, baby.
Never forward, staying true to our tagline.
Yeah. So, and it's like you just know that a JB girl has that certain spark because we had these tools at a young age. Like explore yourself, learn about yourself. It's not just about getting an X amount of salary or getting a job or getting into the best college. There is a little bit more to life, and it strengthened relationships between us because we were all girls in a school going together. So yeah, I would say JB was a large part of who I am today and made me who I am, and of course as well my family.
Yeah, I think, link in bio to send your daughters to JB because I think this is gonna also be like a JB appreciation video cast because honestly, like both of them said, we wouldn't be here without that school. So honestly, like if you keep hearing JB, there's a reason for that, and we really, really are who we are today because of that school. So I loved what both of you said, and I think I'll start with Parmita. I think I loved how you said that you had the freedom to explore because, especially like you said, your parents did not enforce what their practices were onto you. And I think that kind of space to say, hey, I also like spirituality, but maybe I have a different mode of exploring it. That is so important because sometimes, we have families where they might be staunch believers in one thing, and then they only want you to do it that way. And then it can get so limiting because you're like, I also love this, but I have a different self-expression. So I think, you were lucky and also use the tools correctly. And we are all lucky because we've had families that kind of support this free space belief.
Yeah.
And Malvika, like you said, JB is hands down. As she said, we still go back to our teachers. We still do, like, I'll just send Miss Sanjana a voice note randomly from nowhere because I want to send her an update. And even though it's been years since we left school, they have the same response, the same warmth. So 100%, like, I get what you're saying.
Yeah. I think sometimes it's like these seeds when they're sown, we don't value it. Like I remember in JB, I was like, what is this? Like I didn't particularly love yoga at that point. It was only later on. So even at that point, even if people like, parents may be like, but why does my child have to have like yoga in their curriculum? My child doesn't even enjoy it. They don't have to enjoy it. I think the exposure is enough because I didn't enjoy it. But then obviously there was something there that kept taking me back to it. And a lot of even Vipassana for that matter, I hated it when I actually went the first time. I was like, I'm never going back there. I swear, like, why am I putting myself through this? And now it's the one practice I swear my life by. Like, it's the that I've gone over 8 times too. So it's like sometimes your first experience isn't like the lasting impression. It will change, it will
Yeah.
culminate, it will grow, and it will
Yeah.
sprout into a lifestyle. So in that sense, JB, even though we at that point may not have been so grateful about it, I think now when you
In
come up with it,
hindsight.
you're like, yeah, like so much of who I am today is because of this, which I just took for granted then, but
Yeah.
it's inspired my thought processes.
Yeah, and I think we assume that everyone's having the same experience. I think it's when we get out of JB, we realize, oh
Yeah.
my God, everyone doesn't think like this. Like,
Yeah.
this.
Yeah. That's so
I
true.
think you nailed that
Yeah.
one.
Yeah, Malvika, you saying? Did you face that? Like, did you have an experience where you were just like, dude, everyone's not understanding? Like,
No, it's
yeah.
I don't know how to explain it, but Anvita, so many times when I talk to so many of my friends, including JBites,
Yeah.
because like Paru said, not everybody would have connected with
Yeah.
this, not everybody would have chosen to do yoga, not everybody would have gone down this path.
Yeah.
So a lot of them are JBites as well, but sometimes when I hear the way that they think about themselves, or the way that they talk to themselves, or the way that they put so much pressure on so many things, which for me now, after having been through all of this, I'm like, that is not such a big
Yeah.
deal, like it's not
Kind of
something that should
irrelevant.
keep you up at night. It's not
Mm.
something, it's something that you can, or you have access to the tools that will help you. But
Mm.
it's just really sad that those tools weren't developed at a young age for these people. And I can see myself in them, because there was
Yeah.
an age where even I thought that something like this is the end of me, it's the end of the world, I'm never going to recover from this. And I
Yeah.
just wonder that, where did that thought process change? Like, where did we get that right information or those right tools?
Mm.
Because if you don't get it at that time, I feel like later on you get set in a pattern.
Yeah.
And that's what Vipassana essentially is. It makes you sit with yourself. It makes you look at your thoughts. It makes you recognize these patterns. And for a lot of people, that may be like, hey, why am I shutting my eyes for like 10 days at a stretch and just doing nothing? Yeah, like Paro's first experience. But it's like all those things helped us. I don't know, not even mental strength, but like I said before, it gave you that assurance that this is not me. Like, I'm
Yeah.
not these thoughts, I'm not this body, I'm not any of the things that I think that I am. So, what am I?
Yeah, and it's so true. I think it's just initially we may not realize the deep impact that it's having, but it compounds over time. Like you said, where was that one moment? And I think it was like a culmination of like many, many contact points where suddenly we were like, oh, wait, something within me has shifted.
Yeah.
And I think along the same lines, I wanted to ask, do you guys think that this access to this kind of education is important? I know you do think it's important, but where do you think it's lacking? Because even now, like most South Bombay schools, we can speak from our area at least, don't
Yeah.
have this teaching. So if we were to bring about this change or include this access to education, like what are your thoughts on how do we do that, or how do we make these things either part of the curriculum or just somehow introduce it to students?
So at one point, I actually was trying to figure out this whole process of how can we introduce yoga into schools.
Yeah.
And I spoke to our yoga teacher, of course, not Miss Sanjana, Miss Bardiwala, and I was
Yeah.
asking her about it. And she said, with the board, you have to communicate with them. A lot of these SSE boards and stuff like that. I'm not considering SSE right now because we were all in ICSE. But she said it's very difficult for them to understand that, there's more to curriculum than just doing well in school. So I feel like first we need to address that misconception, shed light on mental health issues, and show how yoga is actually a tool to combat all these problems that come up for children. And these are their formative years. Like we said, if we didn't have that resource at the right time, we could have gone down a completely different path. And the way that I see people thinking about themselves and the amount of mental health issues that are sprouting up lately with, like that whole work grind, exposing yourself to the screen constantly, not taking time to switch off, burning yourself out because you think that that's the right way to live. That's all my aim is in life, is to earn money, set up a good, comfortable bank account, and at that time I can rest.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you will never rest then. Because you're always you're always like aiming for something that's far away, and you're telling yourself that I'm going to rest at that point, but that point never comes. So I feel like this is something that this is a great platform, to be more vocal about it, to spread awareness about these things, to explain from your own experience how this has made a difference, and then try to convince schools to incorporate it into their curriculum. This is something that obviously somebody has to take on who has a passion for it and go at it like our yoga teacher did, because when she started this in JB, now she's doing it in BIS as well. And I think there was one more school, but I'm not sure. But it took a long time for her to get there, to convince people. She had to really work hard at it and say that no, this is essential for children and for adults as well. So yeah, I would love to have a world where yoga was a part of everybody's curriculum. You read stories about mindfulness practices being introduced in London instead of detention, and you hear about all these things that people are doing, and they're trying to build this community. So hopefully, with the way that the collective consciousness is moving with all of us,
we'll all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There should be like some more shared emphasis on like non-physical or intangible qualities, like I feel like that was something in our Gurukul system. Like whenever I hear my granddad talk, he always talks about these non-physical qualities that were of utmost importance to him while growing up. And he said, I have to just follow it, and I was like, but what? Like, what made you think that? Like, leave your job? Like, he also was a doctor. He had like a high-paying job. He was supposed to move to London, decided against it. I was like, that just sounds so weird in today's time and age. You would jump at that. You jump at the opportunity of working abroad, high-paying job, better quality of life. I can name it. You've got your housing sorted, everything. Like, why would you not take that opportunity? And he's like, my wife said so, my family said so, and my God said so. And I obviously didn't understand.
Oh my God. Yes.
You can just do because someone said so. But I think what's important is that, just these non-physical qualities. And I think that's, again, in some way, like, I hate selling yoga because I feel yoga has so much to give other than what you can even articulate, I won't even say. I never think I can do justice to what yoga can bring somebody. But, there's so much non-physical aspect of it. And even today, it's sad to see that so much of it is commercialized through the physical aspect. Oh, you can do a chaturanga. Oh, you can do a chakrasana. So I'm just like, well, fine, I'm happy that piques some part of your curiosity, but what's more important is that non-physical element that it's bringing to you, to your everyday life, and sort of put that emphasis on there, because ultimately this lifestyle is about changing your perspective from not just chasing the tangible, right, to go to that intangible. When Malu said earlier about we're not the body, we're not thoughts, and it's like moving away from that constant physical realm that we are in and try to like inquire deeper. And what I remember of Miss Sanjana, and I have a memory of a goldfish, but I definitely remember she would always ask us like, who are you? It's like, and I think that's why even Ramana Maharishi or Tiruvanmalai stuck with me, because it was such a simple question and yet so vague that your answer will keep changing throughout your life. But it's important that you take that steps towards that, just keep inquiring, because I think that's something that in essence, apart from just the physical benefits of yoga or mindfulness, or well, that's all amazing, but the non-physical qualities are what's so integral for us to have as a human, just being.
Yeah, so true. I think, and this is something I also experienced so much, especially sometimes like when I was abroad, this was constantly the case. Oh, how many Surya Namaskars are we doing today? I was like, what's really important is how you feel when you do it. Even if we do 3, like what you experience, that, like you said, the intangible element is what matters. And I think somewhere down the line, we've got this watered down version of yoga where we just think that, let me do a split, I'm so cool. And then, and I think it's just become this culture of let's see who can do an asana better. And it's not that. So I'm really glad you shed light on that, because what we can hope for people listening and watching is that just try and see more. Like, even if you do a simple asana, you will feel something. And if you feel it, try and reach out to people who can help you with their philosophy instead of just pushing it away or not thinking that it's important. And I think, Malvika, like you said, we really need some people to go head on and be like, tell the board, tell people in the education system that this is important, and we cannot any longer be like, just avoid it or just keep it as an optional subject. Dealing with today's mental health issues requires the fortitude that yoga gives you. So 100%. I can't wait till it becomes part of the curriculum.
It really should. It's like, I keep thinking that yoga was my first class or first course in the science of life, because the tools that it gave you, the theory especially, because as a student, initially I was not like at all attuned to asana practice. I had the most inflexible body. I did not want to move. And what really used to water me was the theory. And, it's funny because it gives you so many real life tools to deal with so many real life feelings and emotions that come up, especially when you're a child growing up, like jealousy, anger, all these different things. When you see somebody succeeding, I'm sorry, I'm jumping into something like completely
No, it's
different.
fine.
But when you're growing up and you see people who are succeeding and you wonder that why am I not succeeding? I'm so unhappy. Why did she get that? Or whatever it may be. Like if somebody is being, how would I say it, is being mean or is not being nice, you automatically have a negative thought about that person, or I don't want to associate with that person, or whatever it may
Yeah.
be. And yoga at that age, the sutras that we were taught, that, if this is the emotion that's arising in you, this is the quality that you need to cultivate, instead of just being hateful towards that person, instead of being jealous of that person, instead of being whatever you may be, cultivate compassion, cultivate those qualities. So it kind of gives you a roadmap that, hey, what you're feeling, it's not wrong. It may be natural, but this is what you can do so that you feel better at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And there were so many such sutras. There was the other sutra about the mind and about how it constantly fluctuates. But internally, there's a lake that's so still, that doesn't move, that doesn't get affected by these ups and downs of your thinking that I'm so good, I'm so bad, I did this, I did that. There's something that's still within you. So all these things, being told these things at a young age, I feel like that is the foundation that we are all so grateful for right now. That is yoga. That is yoga that helps you deal with life, relationships, major changes, everything else that comes later on in life.
Yeah. So true. And I think I love that you brought up the theory, because I remember for me as well, there was a point where I was like, should I even take yoga as an elective? Because I live in a yoga center. I was like, let me take cookery so I learn something new. And I remember and then I remember Miss Sanjana had that, moment where she was talking, we got that introduction to each elective. And I remember what sold me sort of on taking this elective was, she said, if you want to know who you are, join yoga. And I was like, that's enough. I want to know who I am. I'm joining this. So it's like you said, those sutras kind of gave us this framework to, okay, how do we do it though? Because everyone says, understand yourself, know yourself, be yourself. But how? No one's telling me how to do that. And if through these Sanskrit sutras, if we can really map out how to do it and then start applying it, I think it takes us that much further. Whereas if it's just an arbitrary process, it's kind of just like, are you even doing it? You don't know, because you're not given the right tools at the right time. So 100%, I think the sutras are really helpful. And now what I'm going to do is go back to our actual questions, because I know that we've gone way off track. So let me just see
what we've covered almost all the points in the cyclical manner, because we're all so much on the same wavelength about so many things that it's just interconnecting in random places.
Exactly. I know that we were on the childhood one. Dude, honestly, to be honest, we've covered most.
Yeah, we've covered a lot of the points.
Yeah. But what I think what I'm going to ask next is going to be, about how, this is a good question. This is something that I struggle with as well. How has being a spiritual entrepreneur made you kind of rethink business? Because I know that the business objectives are always scale, growth, dominate the market. You have to have the highest share of the market, the biggest piece. And it's kind of this alpha mentality and very little collaboration. So as spiritual entrepreneurs, what has your journey been in navigating this space of, I want to have a sustainable business, but I also want to stick by my values? What are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, well, I think a lot of what we discuss sort of comes, it's nice that we're wrapping up to this, because I think one that we already spoke about is that, we need to first build that authentic connection with ourselves, recognize what really stirs us, because only what really stirs you, you'll be able to radiate and emulate that constantly, regardless of the challenges. Because like any entrepreneurial journey, there's going to be challenges, it's going to be exciting, at times it's going to be fulfilling, it's going to be rewarding, and And I think it's important for us to like just stick to our value system at
Mm.
all costs. And that's what it when it becomes really hard, because sometimes the costs outnumber the the profits. And
Yeah.
especially like for me, I think what's um, what's been what's been difficult and at the same time very rewarding, because I've stuck to my value system, is that I've always believed that, you know, whatever I do, I want to keep the earth in my consideration, whatever decisions I make, whatever actions I make. So, and that's again stems from the idea of spirituality. Like once you build that authentic
Mm.
connection with yourself, your perspective sort of changes to, it's an organic. I never thought
Yeah.
I would be so environmentalist. Like I hated EVS in school. So linking back to our first impressions may not be our last impressions.
Yeah.
It's surprising how I'm the girl now who is so for it. You tell me on a Sunday, come for a beach cleanup, I'll be there. You know, it's
Okay.
small changes. And I've always been about quality over quantity. Again, owe it to my mom for
Mm.
inspiring me with that thought system, and obviously friends and family. But what's important is that don't let that value system ever out. Don't compromise on that. And when I mean that, like for us, for example, uh, I remember when I got into it, people were like, you know, packaging should be a very minimal cost. And packaging was actually 30% of my cost, which is significantly high for
Yeah.
F&B company, so as to say.
Mm.
And I was like, no, that's one thing I don't want to compromise on. I don't care. I'll add that additional charge of a biodegradable container or a glass bottle, but I am not compromising on that.
Mm.
I don't want that. And it's weird how the universe found solutions for me, whether that's Areca fallen leaf, packet containers, whether that's biodegradable sugarcane bagasse, whatever, you know, it just came. And what I'm saying is that when you're true to yourself, doors will open up for you.
Yeah.
Ultimately, whatever you do came from the unconscious, right? It came from a higher force. Whatever stirred you internally is something that came
Mm.
from somewhere, and it will find you the way. And I think that's again coming back to emphasizing on those non-physical qualities: devotion, surrender, love, gratitude,
Yeah.
all of that. You know, if you put emphasis on those, life
Mm.
will become magical. Like undoubtedly, I may sound like almost mysterious, but I'm sure we all experience that. You know, all three of us for sure. So I
Yeah.
think it's really important. And even when it came to like, I wanted minimal print. I didn't care about like, you know, having all the information up there, but I didn't want to waste so much in printing or even food wastage. And that's been one of the major reasons why I can't increase my volume, because the
Yeah.
minute I increased my volume, there was that chance of food
Waste.
wastage. And that was again something for me. Anna has always been a concept of God, you know, and while I may not be that religious, what I do know is that it does nourish us from the inside. And I'm known to be that person even in the kitchen. Even if something is decaying, chances are I'll put it in my mouth because I just feel so strongly for it. Like I've been known to be the dustbin, like the garbage. Like, okay, this is rotting, this is decaying.
There is food that her dog won't eat that Paro will eat.
Oh, that's high level respect.
Yeah. So obviously, I'm not saying that we need to be so, but what I'm saying is that recognize your why and never let that out of sight. And on days when you can't seem to see the light ahead, and that will be a lot of days if you are a spiritual entrepreneur to begin with, because it is cutthroat competition, though I don't like that word at all.
I know.
But yeah, I think just remind yourself of why you do what you do, and you will feel internally driven. I feel internally successful the minute I think of my why. The what doesn't matter, you know. So I think just keep reminding yourself of your why and never compromise on your value system, whatever that may be. Yeah, and that may be your authentic self-expression. So don't let others tell you that, oh, you know, because these costs are significantly high, no FNB has this or whatever, you know, whatever be the statistics from whichever area or segment or category you're working from. Don't let statistics, because you never know, you can be the game changer. Like,
Yeah.
and another JB thing, you know, ever forward. Why limit yourself, you know?
Yeah, you can change it. Everything can
Absolutely.
change. Yeah, I felt like that was a pep talk. I felt like you were talking to me and I was like, yes, I'm absorbing this. But no, that was great. And Malvika, do you have anything to add to also that?
I think she hit like the nail on the head. Even when she was talking, I was like, that's exactly it. You focus on the why and you just surrender the how to the universe. It's like you build that sense of self within you that's true. You have that intention that, you know, I will not compromise on my packaging. So universe, help me find a way. Or I will not do this And then your mind starts racing, like, how will I do it then? Everybody else is doing it this way. Will I be able to find a sustainable box? Will I be able to find this? But it's like Paru said, when she decided firmly that this is something that I'm not going to compromise on,
Yeah.
it did come. She did find somebody who was doing something exactly the way she wanted. And yes, you may compromise on certain things, like your costing may go up. But that is eventually a huge part of being a spiritual entrepreneur, is to educate people as to why are you investing
Right.
in this? Why are you investing in good food? Why are you investing in more expensive packaging? Why are you investing in yoga? Why are you investing in all these things? Because people are so hardwired in a different way. It's so important, if you are a spiritual entrepreneur, to just remind people that, like, there I had another option. I could have gone down another path, but this is me being true to myself. And I hope that inspires you to also understand how to be true to yourself. So yeah. I
Yeah.
can't say more than what she said.
No, I think, what I loved was that how you said that we need to stick to our belief systems. And I think that's because I think we look at business as something where we're really doing service and kind of giving to society. And I
Yeah.
think the biggest problem is that the traditional business textbooks teach us how to take,
Yeah.
take this, get the best, do this. It's like this, it's almost like an unequal exchange where we're just going to plunder the resources to make our business profitable. And then in the process, whatever happens, we don't care, And I think that's the difference, that the way we look at business itself is different.
Sorry, you went for a
Yeah.
second.
Yeah. So I was going to say that I think the way we look at business is only so different because of, I think, again, upbringing, things that we've heard. And I think we really look at it as our life's work, like this is what I'm doing, and this is
Yeah.
how I will give rise to divinity within me and outside me by doing this work. And I think once people start looking at business like that, then it's very easy to understand why you would make that decision of, I'll take that extra cost on the packaging, but I won't use plastic. I'll not use things that are not biodegradable. And then it becomes like a natural instinct, It's like, of course, why would I use something that harms the environment? So
Yeah.
for sure. And I want to ask like a follow-up question on the same line. Sometimes like in business, you might have mentors that are not coming from the same like school of thought as you, but they're still highly respected. You respect them. Like, have you had situations or have you ever dealt with people that you really respect, but they're not understanding where you come from? And so it has been a little bit of a tussle on your business decisions. Has that happened?
Yeah, of course, definitely, all the time. And that's why I mentioned that, it's important to remind yourself, because I get so carried away and I'm like, yeah, essentially someone XYZ, not a competitor, but someone in the same field, someone doing similar work is able to garner so much traction and so many followers and so much income. Why can't you? And I'm just like, yeah, maybe I should. What's the school of thought that you're proposing? And they'll say something, maybe it'll tickle down. I'll be like, oh, I could. But again, I think what's important, you can get a lot of valuable insight and then make it yours. So again, come back to that, make it yours. There's nothing written in the textbook. There's
Right.
each one has their own ways to play, and it's just at the same time, since you're a spiritual entrepreneur, it's important for you to be honest to yourself, and no one else is going to have that same journey as you. So I think it's nice to honor that someone who's from that field, who's more experienced, they probably will be able to give you advice on things that you may take a lot longer to actually understand. So it's nice to take that in, and don't overwhelm yourself, especially if you're a single run or you're just about starting up. Don't overwhelm yourself. Oh my God, I have to do so much, Start off with one thing, because I tend to do that. I tend to really overwhelm myself that, oh my God, there's so much influx of data and knowledge and I have to do blah, 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 blah. And then I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to do nothing, because I can't possibly do so much. I can't possibly change so much and be true to myself on so many different aspects. But I think start small. And I think that's those small changes, at least for me, again, quality over quantity always trumps. And it's not something you just preach, it's something that you feel.
Right.
When I sleep at night, I'll sleep a good, like, feeling fulfilled and satisfied. I've even infected one person to the roots rather than 10 people superficially, because that person who's been infected to the roots, chances are they will go out there, spread the word, and momentum will catch on, so on and so forth. But yeah, I think again, you find your own voice, and then taking advice, accepting advice, but don't because that sometimes we judge ourselves again, like by those voices in our head. So I've so many times judged myself by that voice in my head, which is not my voice, which is what someone else said. I may resonate with it to a certain extent, but it's not my voice, and I'll still go back and be like, yeah, I'm not doing good enough. I'm not making impact enough. I'm not making change enough. There are not so many people, like there's so many other people who are doing so much better and so much out there. But I
Yeah.
think don't let that why out of sight, because it will lift you up. It will lift you up. And
Yeah.
we mentioned that being a spiritual entrepreneur, you are signing up for a roller coaster of a journey. So don't expect smooth sailing. Don't expect praises all the time. Don't expect people to just pat you on your back and be like, wow, because you are out of the box. You are thinking out of the box. That's not how it is in our books. Like you said, all our textbooks are all like, you go to an MBA, you learn about how to capitalize, but that's manufactured batch production of a
Right.
standard type of business. You are trying to be out there, trying to do something of your own. And I think, yeah, for me, originality really trumps it all. So just be original, be yourself, ever forward, JB Spirit.
I love,
I just wanted to
guys,
bring that
link in the bio to join JB. No jokes.
She's not
No, but
already.
I think it's so true, like you said. I think, and that's where our value systems come into play. What is important to you? Because sometimes, like, I'll meet a lot of yoga teachers, especially like in my previous job, I would meet a lot of people, and I think what drives them is the clout, and to each their own. Like, if that's what drives you, cool. But I just couldn't relate, because I was like, wow, why are we every day looking at our number of followers? Why are we every day doing this? Like, isn't it more important that we are just authentically being ourselves? So I think you really echoed what was on my mind when you said that, just choose originality, and it won't be simple because you are out of the box. So you can't expect it to go by the rule book.
Yeah, and things will be different for you again. Like when you do, like I'm someone who generally doesn't look at followers, but whoever I do have, I've never got, so people ask me, like, don't you get like shit messages and people being crappy to you? And I was like, in all
No.
honesty, no, never. Like no one's really being crappy at me. No one's sliding in the DMs, like which are like shady. No one's doing that. And they're like, what? Are you serious? Like when you have an open profile, everyone guesses. I'm like, no, it's the energy you put out there. So
Right.
again, like I think what's important is if you're honest to yourself, like again, everything just adds up. It all adds up. And I've always been someone who's like looks at the number of posts and I get so happy. So the other day when I was like 1,000, I was like, wow, I've created so much content. Gave myself a pat on the back. And I'm like, people generally give a pat on the back when you have that many followers. You don't look at it as content you get. But I was like, this is me putting my heart and soul out there, and I'm just happy I'm doing it, and I've had the courage to do it for the last I don't know how many years. But yeah, it's important that you need to lift yourself up. Like I mentioned, there won't be external validation because these are not things that everyone will gauge by, and you're out of them. You never know. But ultimately it is fulfilling for you, and then that's what you do. It's your why.
This is so cool. I'm going to look at my number of posts as well now. Usually I'm just like, whatever, I try to avoid looking at those numbers, but that's a good number to look at if you're looking at it for yourself.
Anything about the hundreds, I'm not a numbers person. Anything about the hundreds is like, woo, that's a lot. And I think I had like 1,000 posts. I was like mind boggled. I was like,
so much content. So much of me putting myself out there. I know what you're saying. Yeah, I get that. Okay, great. So I think this is an awesome topic. And I think if there are like fellow yoga teachers watching or anybody else, I think, we're sharing our perspective. And like we said, to each their own, but this is what drives us and this is what makes us stick. I think my next question now is going to be a lot about the moon circle, because this is honestly it's my favorite. Like literally the minute the story goes up, I'm just like, I don't even need to know anything else.
And that's always our first payment when we post anything. I'll just get that Insta Mojo payment, Anvita Dixit, and now her brother also. Anvita.
So yeah, I mean, just to add in, like you said, that it's so nice that it's not only for women, because I think my brother he's really working on his feminine energy. And I think that's so good because he enjoys now the moon circle. And I would encourage like any men watching this, like, please be open to exploring your divine feminine and the feminine energy inside you. And it's not even, in fact, you might actually get more in touch with your masculine through this. So it's, you should definitely come, but I'll let you guys explain like the concept and, how it came about.
So we actually started this at Prism, where Paro's mom has a healing center. And I don't know actually how the thought came into our head, because initially it was just me, Parmita and Shaili, and we would meet and we would discuss all these things, or we'd be like, did you see that post on Insta, like Mercury is in retrograde and it means this and it means that. And, we started seeing these patterns and coincidences around the moon. And I don't think, we were staunch believers in this cosmic energy or anything. But the more that we started diving deeper into it, we saw that, the themes around the moon circles, like the themes that they explore around the new moon and the full moon, they are very universal in nature. They are qualities that may come up in a person. They are situations that may come up in your life around a certain period of time. And it's very to each their own. If something
Mm.
relates to you, you pick it up from what we're saying. If something does not relate to you, you let it go.
Yeah.
The essence of the practice is that we all come together. It's a lot of people who come together and we do practices together. So, like the Buddha talks about a Sangha, which is so important in any spiritual practice. You need a community of people who come together and either do the same practice or have the same values or believe in the same thing, because that's how you get inspired. Like we keep saying that we learn way more from the people who join our circles and who express themselves than we have planned to teach you, you know. So it's a reward for us as well to have these circles. It's why we started doing it, because we realized that different people coming in, different people bringing their energy, it shows us a different perspective. Like I may be feeling small in my corporate job right now, like probably when you came for that circle, and then you're surrounded by people who are like, no, I'm a yoga teacher, no, I left my job to do this, I left my job to do that.
Yeah.
And it gives you that strength in numbers that, you know, there are people out there who are pursuing their dreams. And so the basic premise of the moon circle is like the moon, especially for women, the moon has a 28-day cycle. We have a 28-day cycle. In that period, the moon is waxing and waning. When the moon is full, they believe that that is your truest expression of yourself. You have become full as well as a woman. And it's not necessarily in sync that during the full moon you will feel full. Your phases may be different, but there are these standard 4 phases that we go through of like growing, being full, shrinking, and being nothing. So when we are nothing, when it's a new moon, that's a great time to sit with yourself, do meditational practices, go inward. And when the moon is full, or when you are in your full phase, it's a great time to go out there, express your truth. And that's what it's trying to tell you, that as a woman, like the moon, you have phases. There are moments in your life where you will want to be outspoken, vocal, convince people, talk to people, get people on board with what you're doing. And there will be moments in that same month, maybe in that same week, maybe in that same day, where you just want to switch off. You want to go internal. You don't want to engage with people, and you just want to be by yourself. And it's trying to show you that all these phases are a part of you. There is nothing wrong. You don't have to go at it 24/7. You don't have to be full 24/7. You don't have to be nothing 24/7. There's always a change. And it sort of just made us aware of these changes. It made me appreciate these changes. And I was like, okay, the moon doesn't have to be full all the time, neither do I.
Yeah. That's so well said. The moon doesn't have to be full all the time, and neither do I. Yeah.
I also like a bit, Anvita, about what you said. It doesn't always have to be. Sometimes, it's not just about the feminine wisdom. It's also sometimes how that feminine wisdom can assist the masculinity. And I think that reminded me of this quote by Yogi Bhajan, who's a Kundalini in the Kundalini Yoga school of line of thought. And it says, everything grows because of the moon, everything ripens because of the sun, and everything is conceived because of the combination of the harmony and those two polarities of male and female, sun and moon. And I think what's nice is that that same ties up with the yoga philosophy of Ida and Pingala, of like, of the masculine and the feminine, of the Shiva and the Shakti, of the yin and the yang. And it's like we have both of those within us. It doesn't necessarily have to mean that you have to be a girl to attend our moon circles, like it's sometimes just about honoring the yin or the moon cycles, about like taking rest, about restoring, about nurturing. And because we're in a city like this, rest is so underrated. We don't take out time, to rest. It's like even in a 24-hour day cycle, like 12 hours of rest would be like, huh? Like 12 hours of like hustling and working would be like, yeah. But you tell me 12 hours of rest, you'll be like, are you kidding me? Why the unequal balance? Like, between like so I think, what's important is that you just come here to sort of hit, restore, nurture. And that's regardless of whether you're a guy or a girl, you take back because of the environment we're in, where we don't just rest enough. So I think it's just about bringing out that balance between the yin and the yang, the hustle and the switch off from the world moon.
And we have so many people who tell us that if not for coming for these moon circles, we wouldn't be able to take time out for ourselves. And sometimes I'm like, hey, as a yoga teacher and practitioner myself, sometimes even I need that circle to push me to take out that extra time. Like, yeah, maybe I do my 15 minutes or everything every day, but that long stretch of time, sometimes I have to really convince myself to take that time out. So it gives you that commitment to yourself that every 2 weeks I am going to check in with myself regardless of what's going on.
Yeah, yeah. And I'd like to add like two things. I think first, what I love about the moon circles is there's always like there are activities that really help us to bring that element out of us. Like I love that we do the journaling and there are always a question prompt. So even if some days you're blank, you have something to work with and you kind of know, okay, this is what I want to channelize. So, and just the amount of thought that you guys put in, like, so since Anvita started attending after the class, we both like, first we were just silent for a bit because we know we've experienced so much. And then after that, I like pop into his room and be like, dude, how was it? And then, we just have like a discussion about how it was. And I think it sparks so many conversations like within yourself and then with other people also. And I think the next thing I love the most is also like Shelly, who isn't here, by the way, everyone, but she's also part of the Moon Circle and she leads it. And the way she does the Yoga Nidra, I think, again, that takes you in a state of like, getting in touch with something deeper, which may not be on the surface of your mind, but it's there and you need to kind of like acknowledge it. And I mean, I just want to add, I will never forget that one moon circle where I remember, we were doing journaling and I still remember it was like, how has your day been? And what were the things that you went through? What did you observe about yourself during the day? And I couldn't remember only what work I had done. I could only remember that I did yoga and that I danced. And then I was like, the next question was, what would your top 3 manifestations be or something like that? What are the top 3 things? And my top 3 things were yoga, dance, and a combination of both. So I was like, wow, this is.
I did everything that I needed to.
So it was, and then we did the Yoga Nidra, which kind of like reinforced that even further. So I was just like, oh wow, okay, I really need to take a step back and see what I've learned in the session. So yeah, definitely.
Yeah, like you said, journaling also, it started with our moon circles and it was something that came so organically because I felt like, even I love to write and so many times we're just writing in our minds, like there are thoughts that are just going around and we don't realize that we're kind of writing our own future or writing our own perception of things. And when you actually have to put that down on paper, it's sort of like an aha moment that, like maybe all this junk that's constantly playing in my mind is not actually my subconscious. There's actually some truth that I've put down on paper. That is the real truth. Sort of a thing.
Yeah, so true. So yeah, I would definitely say that, it's I don't know, I just love the moon circle. So I'm just like, when is it happening? And I'm coming. And I think that also what I want to add is, it's also in sync with, because a lot of people follow the Vedic calendar. It's pretty much in sync with the same Purnima Amavasya that we see on the Vedic calendar. So it's really cool how cultures across the globe know this, and follow the cycles of the moon. It's not only like because a lot of times people think it's a new age philosophy that suddenly we're following, which is, it's not true. This is something that people have been following for centuries and we're just paying more attention to it and really bringing it up. So yeah. All right. So now that we have a little time left, I'm going to start wrapping up and taking us to our last question. Actually, there's 2 last questions and we're going to keep it really short. So just like 1 word, 1 line answers. The second last question is, if there's just one cause, and I know this is hard, but if there's just one cause that you have to focus on pretty much or give yourself to for the rest of your life, what would that be in like a sentence or a word? And then I'll take you to the last question. So
I think we touched upon this already. Access to education for sure.
Yeah. And Parmita, for you?
Veganism. That's my life purpose at this moment. So,
that reminds me, I want to have like a completely different interview with you guys on vegetarianism and veganism, but we'll do that later. But I know, I agree. I think both of these points are so important for the future of the world that we're heading into. So completely agree. And so
I'm like, can I pick 2 now?
yeah, it's difficult to show.
I mean, yeah, I guess one would be like one that we really focus on more, but I think everything kind of aligns and comes in.
And it's strange because she's working in the education space, I'm working in the veganism. Somewhere you are playing out your dharma, you are playing out your purpose.
Exactly.
You are doing what you have to do. See that change in the world. However.
Yeah.
so true. And I think my last question is just going to be like, if you had to leave people with just like top three things, and I'll just give you an example of what Navita did in the previous one. She just said like three mantras that she lives by, and she said, don't change who you are, kind of embody all aspects of yourself, and don't be afraid to take time out. So stuff like that. If there was just three mantras that you could leave people with towards the end of this, what would those three be, considering everything you've learned so far about yourself and spirituality? So any top three mantras?
Okay, so for me, it would be definitely honesty, authentic self-expression. Be honest to yourself first so that you can express that out authentically. Two would be gratitude. Just be grateful for all that you have. And I think three ties up with two. It's just come from that abundant mind space, because I tend to, especially in the city, come from the lack space. Many times like I have to like compete or I have to outdo myself. I'm not good enough. And that sort of coming from that abundant mind space, like constantly changing the narrative. Gratitude definitely helps coming from that abundant state of mind. But yeah, I think those three help me.
Okay, awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, I think for me, the first one would be kind to yourself always. Like Paru said, gratitude is, of course, a huge, huge practice for me as well. Wake up first thing in the morning. I'm so grateful to be here. And the third thing that I would want to leave people with is don't be afraid to speak your truth, whatever that means.
Yeah. Oh, so powerful. I feel like my heart is full after this conversation. And I hope that everyone
Actually,
watching.
can I add one more? I forgot because my dogs
Yeah.
inspired me with that one actually. And, Leela, like I generally call him Leela, but Leela in Sanskrit means play. And I think that's something that, yeah, I tend to invoke that lightful attitude towards everything. Like even if something shit's gone down, I was like, okay, I'm just going to laugh about this, because laugh at myself or laugh about this. It really helps me deal with the situation better. I'm someone who cannot work under stress. Even after all those years of yoga training, stress management is not something I excel in. Please. So I definitely think being play and like just being light and just taking myself not so seriously helps with yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I know we're running out of time, but Paru, like, just one more thing about this play. It's like Paru said, she learned from her puppy so much about that. And even when you see kids, when you see puppies, there's so much of that playful energy, which is actually learning. And we don't realize that when we're so stressed and when we get old and we feel like there are certain ways to do things, we forget that you learn or you have fun or you're able to flow through life much easier when you look at it as play. Like there is no pressure to perform, there is no nothing. There's just this joy for life, this curiosity to explore things. So yeah, I was like, I want to jump on that and say that I also.
No, but I think that's such a good point, because I think age is genuinely in our minds, like you guys said. Like you can really be a child no matter what age you are, and in the sense that you have that playful energy and you have that, oh wow, I'm just so happy to be alive that I'm gonna just do what I can in this moment. And sometimes we just get old, we let life like bog us down and be like, like we wake up with a sigh, and I hope that doesn't happen to anyone. I hope you wake up with like because I remember when I used to wake up, especially on Fridays for school, and we used to have dress as you like day, I would wake up like I would spring out of the bed like a jack in the box, like today I'm going to school and what am I going to wear, and like, so I hope that we carry that essence and that spirit into like every day of life, because every day is a gift, like you guys said. It's not, we're fortunate that we get to live, not everyone gets to experience that, so we should just do as much as we can with it, for sure.
And invoke as much of that playful puppy child energy as you can when you're faced with real problems, because they have lots of problems as well, but they just have such a better way of dealing with it.
They just wag their tail and be like, chill. But yeah, no, I think honestly, like I always say this, I think there's so many conversations with women, again, just with anybody that embodies the divine, where you feel like your soul has been nurtured and you feel full. And I feel like that has been this conversation. So thank you guys so much. I hope that everybody watching also felt what we felt in this moment when we spoke to each other. And I hope that you were able to take away from some of the ideas we shared here. And I think our hope, with this conversation was just to spark a different way of thinking, because sometimes, definitions, living in a box is so drilled in us that we think it's the only way. And through these conversations, we want to just inspire you to think that there might be something else that we're not looking at yet. So I hope that's something you've been able to pay attention to. Thank you for joining us for episode 2, Malvika and Parmita. Really, really glad you guys could make it. And thank you to everyone watching. We will catch you in the next episode really soon. Thank you and see you soon, everyone.